Welcome to SI Now Live on this Friday. I'm Robin Lundberg. He's Ryan Aselta. And last night, LeBron James and the Cavs bested Lonzo Ball and the Lakers 121-112 behind LeBron's triple-double. But the story afterwards, what has become a tradition, trying to decipher what LeBron said to a player after a game while covering his mouth with his jersey. This time, it was words with Lonzo, which LeBron said were none of our business. So, Ryan, what do you think he was saying?
First of all, veteran move, right? Covering the mouth like the baseball players do with their mitt. I think, first of all, he said to him, hey, man, tell your bro if he needs some new shades, hit me up. I can get him. He doesn't have to steal them in China. Let's get that off the table first. Now, I think there's a lot of respect between the two of them here. I mean, Lonzo has made it clear he idolized LeBron as a kid. He looked up to him. LeBron has taken to that. He's taken to him, and he says the kindest things about Lonzo Ball, who's a competitor, an adversary of sorts at this point. Some interesting comments last night, which will lead to more speculation about where LeBron's going to go next. First, it was Houston earlier in the week we talked about. Well, now, I think some interesting comments. LeBron said about Lonzo, it's always team. He passes the ball, pushes the ball up the floor, someone that you want to play with. This is a team game. Interesting comment, saying someone you want to play with. He clearly likes the kid. I don't know. There's a lot of respect between the two there, Robin. I don't think anything other than James telling him start tuning out the noise a little bit. Some helpful advice for a young kid like that. Yeah,
it was most likely just advice. Yeah. But I could also see LeBron milking it for the attention a little bit. He knows who he is, so he knows this stuff garners attention, and therefore he does cover his mouth because people would try and read his lips. As far as Lonzo and being fun to play with, part of that comes from emulating LeBron. I mean, that's twofold. One is he's of the age where we're going to see a new crop and generation of players who say LeBron was their favorite player just because they grew up watching him. Back when I was growing up, LeBron was still young, right? But with Lonzo, he also passes the ball. He's very unselfish. When it comes to joining the Lakers possibly, the speculation started mostly because of the allure of the Lakers franchise and its history and the location. Talking actual personnel, it's sort of interesting in a sense, because I'm watching that game last night and thinking in those terms. And what the Cavaliers have is spot-up shooting around LeBron. The Lakers don't have that. But the Lakers have a lot more bounce than the Cavs do, a lot more live bodies, young athleticism. If you could get a player or two and pick them off the Lakers and plop them on the Cavs, that would be the ideal situation. I still doubt LeBron's heading to Los Angeles, but you couldn't help but watch that game with that sort of possibility in mind. So I was thinking, how do these pieces work? Which team has the advantage going forward? All that sort of stuff.
There's a lot of dots that connect to L.A. With the homes he has out in Brentwood. He's clearly trying to get into the movie business. He's done a few of those. He's in the entertainment world. A lot of it does make sense down the road. Question for you, though. I mean, he is an entertainer. He's a showman. You think he knows exactly what he's doing here? I mean, he knows he's going to be asked about this afterwards. And his comments just lead to more speculation by saying, none of your business.
Oh, yeah. LeBron came up in a petri dish of media attention. So I certainly think he's aware if he's going to talk to Lonzo, it's going to make headlines. Whether he cares or not, that's the reason he did what he did. And there's just one more point on this.
I got you.
All right, good.
Yeah, all good.
All right, the final Mayweather-McGregor pay-per-view numbers are finally in. As Showtime Sports confirmed, 4.3 million pay-per-view buys in North America, making it the second largest pay-per-view event of all time behind Mayweather-Pacquiao, which set the North American pay-per-view mark at 4.6 million buys in 2015. The third best event in history, 2.48 million buys for Oscar De La Hoya versus Mayweather in 2007. The total global revenue from the super fight, including ticket sales, sponsorship, and international distribution, exceeds $600 million. So with the numbers in, was Mayweather-McGregor a success or failure?
It's tough to call $600 million in revenue a failure. I know it came up short of the expectations and the hopes of being the #1 all-time buy, but I don't think you can call it a failure. I think it reflected the market and the viewers. Viewers were skeptical for a few reasons. Obviously, bringing a UFC fighter in against a boxer, people didn't know what to expect, whether it's going to be a joke, a 1, a 2-round fight and be done with it, be a waste of money. But remember, we were coming off of the Mayweather-Pacquiao debacle that set the record. People paid all this money for it, and that was a snooze fest. So I think people were cautious in purchasing this, but after seeing it, And I don't think we're ever going to get that rematch. But after seeing the numbers for the first time, oh, they could shatter the record if they ever got a rematch. Now, I don't think Mayweather's ever going to come back to do that, but that would by far shatter the record because people know it was entertaining. It was a good buy.
The saying is perception is reality. That's not actually true. I believe the perception here is that it was not a success, at least internally, or else why wait so long to release these numbers? It's, a news dump. That's basically what this is. Put it out there. Hopefully nobody talks about it. Too bad. We're talking about it right here. As far as tangibly, I think it's a success. I mean, they billed it as the biggest pay-per-view ever. Oh well, it was only bigger than all other pay-per-views but one. And you mentioned a number of the reasons, the way people consume media, the disappointment maybe from Mayweather-Pacquiao, and then the lead up to this being a joke. I would view it as a success. I would spin it as a success. Every press release does that. But I think the way they hyped it, especially with the hype men they had involved in the two fighters, they waited a while because they weren't too proud to beat their chest and scream from a mountaintop about it.
Yeah, the timing begs some questions here. And I'm trying to figure out, was it a news dump? Yeah, I mean, it was close to being a Friday 5 o'clock news dump as you can get. But
this fight was in August.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like they didn't have these numbers, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming they've had them, but putting it out now, maybe are they trying to just stir up interest heading into 2018 with plans of some kind of other fight between McGregor and another boxer? Let's face it, the news on McGregor hasn't been all that positive lately coming out of Ireland. He's had some issues, some fights. The mob has been linked to him over there. So maybe it's trying to get some positive spin when it comes to Conor McGregor, knowing how much he's worth going into the new year. I could see the news dump angle too, though. We're December, what are we, December 15th?
Yeah, it's almost the holidays.
In Cleveland, new Browns GM John Dorsey, he isn't wasting any time making his presence felt. Dorsey basically threw Sashi Brown under the bus, saying the old regime never brought in any real players to the Browns. Now, Dorsey basically deflected any responsibility for the Browns' issues away from head coach Hugh Jackson. Remember, this was an analytics-driven front office. Now Dorsey takes over, a traditional football guy. What do you think, Robin? Is Dorsey right? Should the blame be put on Brown and the old regime and not on head coach Hugh Jackson?
Dorsey's a little ungrateful here. I mean, I get trying to protect your coach, even though Jackson has made a lot of mistakes. But if I'm taking over this Browns job, I'm thanking the previous regime. You're coming into a great position. They are loaded for this draft with picks at the top of the draft, a few in the top 10 right now, including the #1 pick overall if the season ended. They've actually drafted pretty well according to draft scores over the last several years. Everyone is focused on Wentz, and that's a huge miss and a huge blunder, but that doesn't mean you can't build up the rest of the roster going forward. And there's also this idea of the analytics thing that keeps getting thrown into these stories, and these old school guys are saying, the game isn't played on paper, it's not played in calculators, it's played between the lines. So the idea of throwing that dig in there, that might be a little bit of stroking the old school ego, but he's going into a good situation, and he's set up if the Browns do anything going forward, right? Because the standards are so low to receive only credit and no blame. Yeah,
the analytics thing, I don't think it works as well in football. I see it in the NBA. I see it in baseball as very valuable. I think football, there's a very traditional way of seeing players on the field and how they react from banging heads out there. That's a big factor of this. But what Dorsey, I think, was trying to say was that Sashi Brown was a bad personnel guy. He wasn't a bad, necessarily, draft guy, a cap guy. He cleared $100 million in cap space. They have 5 picks in the first 2 rounds going into this season. The problem is he missed on Wentz. He traded down from Wentz, and then he traded down again and missed on Deshaun Watson as well. So a franchise that is begging for a franchise quarterback to pass on those QBs, those were questionable moves. Here's the thing. 1-27 record under Sashi Brown. You bring in Dorsey. This guy has won conference titles, Super Bowl titles, 9 playoff berths, 11 division titles. He's won. That's what the Cleveland Browns need, someone who knows how to win.
Let me defend analytics for a second, and this as a referendum. One, I don't think most analytics guys are only about the numbers, right? It's a combination of both. Any smart person is evaluating any factor and all factors and making a decision. The other is just if someone fails doesn't mean the methodology is bad. The execution can be bad, as you said. So the thought process behind it can be sound, but if you're not making the right individual choices, then it's not going to work regardless of how you got there.
It's got to be a balance, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not throwing analytics out the window, but when you build a front office staff that is just so heavy on the analytics, I mean, they brought in Paul DePodesta, who's an analytics guy from Major League Baseball, to run things over there. So I think you have to have the balance, the analytics, and then a guy who's a personnel, a strictly football guy to work together in tandem. And then you have a little more success. No?
I don't need no stinking analytics to know the Browns stink, Ryan.
Yeah, they do stink. No disagreeing there. All right, speaking of blame and placing it, another food company is directing its blame for sagging sales at the NFL. Sanderson Farms, which is one of the country's biggest chicken producers, is blaming a dip in chicken wing sales on the NFL. Now remember, first it was Papa John's blaming the protest on the national anthem and low pizza sales, and now a chicken wing company is blaming the league. Do you see any connection here? They say that the numbers are clearly down in chicken wing sales across the board here.
This is so whack. I mean, first of all, if you want to make the case football viewership is down and that's affecting your chicken wing sales, I wouldn't draw the attention to my failing sales, but we don't know if it's simply protests that are making people not want your chicken wings on football. And I would also wonder if something like that What the Health documentary actually had more effect or negative impact on chicken wing sales than something that happened in an NFL game.
Or video like that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's grossing me out right there. I'm sorry. That does not make me want to go buy a thing of extra hot, spicy wings.
So what this does is it makes you seem tone deaf or worse to the issues, which can hurt your business going forward. And it also exposes your lack of business for the world to see, because I would have no idea that this chicken company, what was it again?
Sanderson Farms.
Yeah,
yes.
was down in their sales.
Right.
Now I do. So Sanderson Farms, congratulations. We know your business is going down the toilet.
You know, it's the time of year. Companies are going through the books. They're looking at the budget. They're looking at what went wrong, and they're placing the blame. They're shifting the blame wherever they can, right?
I got an idea. Sanderson Farms can sell their chicken as a topping for Papa John's pizza. So together, maybe they can Venn diagram their sales a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, listen, there's no debating. Ratings are down in the NFL, so there's companies that are hopping on board. You know, the Papa John's issue was combated by Pizza Hut, saying we've seen no dip in sales whatsoever. I haven't heard any of the beer manufacturers complaining that their sales are down because of the NFL. This is a TV ratings issue, and other companies are just trying to hop on board. And that's real. The TV ratings is a major problem. Monday Night Football this past week, week 15, Dolphins-Patriots, was down 7% from last year, the same week. Patriots playing on that Monday night as well. That's a problem. That's not going away, but are chicken wing sales suffering because people aren't watching the Pats? I'm not buying that, Robin.
To that point, breaking news, the Broncos and Colts played last night. The Broncos won. They've struggled this season. I had a chance to talk with former Denver great Terrell Davis about the team's struggles and a variety of other topics. I'm here with former NFL running back, Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, and, you know, we're going to get to your ring in a second because you can't miss it. He's here courtesy of K Jewelers.
That's a nice ring.
But your Georgia Bulldogs are in the college football playoff. They got Oklahoma. How do you think they're going to do?
They're going to win, of course, man. They're going to win this game. Listen, Georgia's defense right now is probably playing the best in college football. The running game came to life in that Auburn game. I think their quarterback has been playing like he's a senior, so I feel good about Georgia's chances. They're playing in the Rose Bowl. I live in California, so it's a chance for me to go up the road to see my team play, so I'm excited about it. We'll be there. The dogs will be there. The fans will be there. We'll root them on, but I'm excited for them to have this opportunity, really, because they've been fighting hard for many years, and we haven't put ourselves in a position to be playing for a national title. And so this is good for the school. Hopefully they can win this game and then be in the title game.
Your other former team not doing as well. Broncos struggling just a bit, and they've had a rotation of quarterbacks, and 3 on the roster. They've all started. Do you think that the quarterback of the future is in-house for them?
I don't. I've seen those quarterbacks, and I saw Trevor Siemian play, and like him as a quarterback, but I don't think Trevor is a starting quarterback. you look at Paxton Lynch, and I just haven't seen Paxton develop to where he should be at this point in his career. And of course, they brought Brock back to Denver, and of course, we had a chance to see him not only in Houston but in Cleveland. So I don't think Brock's the answer either. So I don't think the quarterback that they're of the future is in house. But with that said, I think they can be successful with one of these quarterbacks in Denver. But they have to build more pieces around him.
When we talk about rings in Denver, I think of you and John Elway. Why do you think Elway struggled to bring in a quarterback?
I think it's hard for anybody, especially if you can't control it. You know, as the tougher thing about an executive is he doesn't play. You know, he's trying to grab somebody and get a player to be in a position to play well, but he can't go out there and throw a football. So, and it's always tough because you look at players and you assume they can do what you can do. So if you're John Elway, you go draft a Paxton Lynch, you think, okay, Paxton, I've drafted you. I see some things that I like. I see some things that, you know, remind me of me. But at the end of the day, it's somebody else doing it. And it's always a tough position to be in. I remember watching John in one of his first games as a GM, watch the team, and I watched him closely as he's watching the game in the box, and you could tell he wasn't comfortable because its stage was already set. He already got the pieces. He already put the guys on the field. Now he was sort of helpless in what he can do and how he can help the team. So it's never a good position to be in if you're a GM, especially if you're a great player.
Now, one of the undercurrents of the NFL season has been Colin Kaepernick's story, of course, not being on a team. A lot of people have linked him to Denver. Why do you think Elway hasn't considered him?
I don't know at this point, because I know I think a year ago they tried to trade for him, and I think there was some compensation issues about reducing the salary, and that didn't work out. I would say it's probably a little bit of what's happening, what's surrounding Kaepernick right now. It's just, you know, I don't think a lot of teams want to deal with that, and that's an honest assessment of it. So yeah, I think that's part of it, and then you have to sort of weigh it. Is the risk of bringing Colin Kaepernick in for any team, is it worth the reward? And I think a lot of teams figured out at the end of the day that it's not worth it. And so they just decided to go in a different direction.
Do you think, you know, do you buy into the collusion aspect of it, that the NFL as a whole trying not to have him in the league?
The collusion part, I don't know enough about that to say yes or no. But it appears that it might be something to that. I don't know if owners called and say, hey, don't sign him. I don't know if that actually went on. I think just what I said about weighing the risk of bringing him in and if you think it was worth it or not. So if that's the case where they just felt like it wasn't enough upside to bringing him in, then that's what it is. But whether owners called each other and say, hey, you know, nobody signed Colin Kaepernick, I can't say that's the case.
Now let's go back to your performance on the field, part of the 2,000-yard club, you know, a rare accomplishment. Do you think anyone else will ever get there again? Do you think we'll ever see another 2,000-yard run?
Yeah, we will. We will. It's just, you know what, it's in cycles, right? You see there's some seasons where teams run the ball more. We'll get a special player. I mean, I think Zeke is capable. If he's not suspended, he's capable of going, you know, over 2,000 yards. And it just creates sometimes the right environment. And sometimes a guy gets off to a hot start and he just rides that wave the entire season. So yes, we will see another 2,000-yard runner in this league, especially if they go to an 18-game season.
Now, we talk about guys who have rushed for a bunch of yards. Larry Johnson recently was profiled in the Washington Post, and he believes he's dealing with CTE. Did you see that?
From him or from me?
From him.
No, I didn't see it. Well, I saw that he reported that, and it's always a topic of discussion with former players about how you feel and what our future holds. And so, yeah, I'm always concerned about that, and I hate to see anybody who says they have CTE or is experiencing anything like that, because you don't want to see that as a player. So, you know, I'd have to take what he's saying as those are facts. If he feels that way, then that's the way he feels. But for me, I'm fortunate right now that I feel well. I feel like everything is functioning properly, and hopefully I can stay this way because I have a family, I have kids, and I have a wife, and so I hope long term that I'm still healthy and I can function and have my faculties there. So yeah, but it's always in the back of your mind as a player, because the game, you know, we played the game when the rules were a little different and how they assess concussions. So I think we we have a little concern about that. But I try not to think about it, try to keep my mind active and just try to look forward versus trying to look back.
Well, we'll obviously hope the best for you as well. What do you think of the players who come out and say stuff like the game has gotten too soft? What do you make of that?
Yeah, see, that's the problem I have is you can't have it both ways. You can't say, you can't fuss about a Thursday game, being 4 days after the Sunday game, and then say the NFL doesn't care about our safety, but then you criticize the NFL for being too concerned about hits to the head. So it's like, which one do you want? For me, I appreciate the NFL for what they're doing is trying to protect players, whether it's concussions, taking players out of the game, taking the helmet away from them, whether it's penalizing players for going, hitting defensive players or going head hunting. I'm all for that. I'm all for the safety of the game. I don't believe the game is watered down just because you're trying to make it safer. It's still football. It's still a collision sport. They're just taking out the unnecessary violence in the game, and I appreciate that.
Now let's talk about Kay Jewelers a little bit. I know you're here as part of what they're doing with the Ring of Excellence for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Kay Jewelers is the #1 jewelry store in America. It's the official jewelry store of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as you can see, which is a phenomenal thing, man. So this holiday season, man, go out there. You can go out and go to Kay Jewelers stores or go to Kay.com to go find that special gift for this time of the season.
Now, what do you do with your Super Bowl ring? Do you wear it? Do you keep it somewhere? What do you do with it?
So when I first got them, I didn't wear them at all. Matter of fact, I just put them away.
It rings plural.
Yeah, it rings. I just put them away, and then as time went on, as the game was getting further and further away, for some reason, I'm like, I've got to break them back out. And then when I started looking at them, and they were in my office, it makes me smile when I see them because there's a lot of memories that are tied to those rings. And I was doing myself really kind of a disservice by putting them in a drawer. And so now I'm able to look at those rings and really reflect on how we got those rings, the journey, all that stuff comes to mind. And then obviously you get this beautiful ring right here. And this is, you can't get no better than this, man, right? So I've been rocking this one a lot more than I have the Super Bowl rings. I've worn this one. I've had this ring probably 3 or 4 weeks, and I've worn this thing 9 or 10 times. Like this thing, it stays on. It stays on often.
Thank you, the Hall of Famer Terrell Davis. Appreciate your time. Who are your executive decisions on who to start this week?
All right, well, the first one may seem pretty obvious, but I've been talking to a lot of fantasy owners this week, and they don't know what to do with Aaron Rodgers now that he's cleared and going back. You put him right back in your starting lineup. As a matter of fact, I would play Aaron Rodgers over every quarterback besides Ben Roethlisberger and Russell Wilson. So he's my quarterback 3 on the week. Coming right back off of injury, but this is a player that touches the ball every single play, every single snap on offense. So he dominates touches. They're putting him back out there. That's their franchise quarterback. He must be fully healthy. I put him right back in the lineup. Even though the matchup is tough versus the Carolina Panthers, he's Aaron Rodgers. That team is trying to fight for a playoff spot. I think you get a typical Aaron Rodgers game, so no hesitation putting A-Rod right back in your lineup. A-Rod, excuse me. If you're playing against a former Carson Wentz owner, you want to block them, go pick up Jimmy G. In the 2 games since the Niners, he's been the starter. He's put up nice numbers. He's only thrown 1 touchdown pass with games of 293 and 334 yards passing. Gets a Tennessee Titans secondary this week. So Jimmy Garoppolo era as a fantasy starter is here.
And your final start for this important playoff week?
Rod Smith and Alfred Morris, both Dallas Cowboy running backs, I think, getting lineups this week. Rod Smith is worthy of an RB2 or flex play in PPR leagues. I wouldn't trust him too much in the standard. He's going to have some pass catching value. They can get about 5 or 6 targets, maybe 5 or 6 receptions. You saw the long touchdown run last week. They're going up against an Oakland team that's pretty much quit. And Alfred Morris is touching the football, 20 times a game at least. If he pounds one into the end zone, you might be able to get 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. So Alfred Morris and Rod Smith both going lineups. I even got a team where I'm playing them both in the same lineup.
But who do you sit?
You start off with Robert Woods just coming back. Really don't like to play players just coming back off of injury. But he was a wide receiver 1 before he went out, missed 3 weeks with that shoulder injury. I really think it's too risky to throw him right back in there right now. Maybe you have to wait till week 16 to get Robert Woods back in there. Plus, we're starting to see Sammy get some red zone looks. Cooper Kupp has really stepped up. So I'm sitting Robert Woods in most scenarios this week. Devontae Parker, I'm sitting in all scenarios. This guy has pulled another disappearing act. 2 of his last 3 games, 1 reception. Even with Cutler playing his best game last week, he had 4 catches for 40 yards. He's a wide receiver 4 to me right now. You cannot trust Devontae Parker, and I will never, ever again put him on a fantasy team of mine. I'm done.
That's it.
It's over.
He's banished?
He's over.
He's into the fantasy abyss?
I'm unfriending him on Facebook, unfollow him on Twitter, the whole thing.
Blocking him from your draft list?
We've broken up.
Okay.
It's over.
Do you have a final sit?
Final sit is DeMarco Murray, who the Tennessee Titans offense not really what we thought it would be this year. They've been somebody in fantasy circles, we really overrated them. Still waiting for Henry to pop. But Murray, more for the most part, banged up for most of the season. Since week 7, he has one game of more than 14 carries. In that same time frame, one game of more than 50 yards rushing. So DeMarco Murray is not somebody that you want to go to this round of the dance with, because I think he'll leave you hanging. So I'm sitting DeMarco Murray this week. Tennessee Titans not really, that running game is not what we thought it would be, and it's too much of a timeshare.
It's time now for SI Now's Weekend Drive, presented by Toyota. Let's go places. First, we'll kick it off with the college football bowl season. Boise State will face Oregon in the Las Vegas Bowl. Mario Cristobal has been named the new Duck head coach after the departure of Willie Taggart, and is excited for the challenge against Boise State in their defense.
They're disruptive on defense. I got to watch both sides of the ball now as well. I focus mostly on their defense. They're disruptive. They're top 25 in just about every defensive category. High effort, high motor operation. They do force a lot of turnovers. They're really efficient in the red zone.
Cristobal hasn't won a bowl game as a head coach since he was with FIU back in 2012. A win here could really catapult the program into a new era. Next, some NFL action. We'll take you to Charlotte, where the Panthers and Packers will meet with playoff hopes on the line. Packers QB Aaron Rodgers will return from a broken clavicle he suffered in Week 6. Here's Rodgers talking about getting back on the field.
I feel confident I'll be able to go out there and play the way I've always played, but I've been off for 7 games and been out for a while. So it's going to take getting out there, getting that first pass in, that first hit, and then I'll probably settle in.
Before Rodgers went down, the Packers were 4-1. Since the injury, the team has gone 3-5. Lastly, we traveled to the Steel City to see Tom Brady and the Patriots battle Big Ben and the Steelers. The #1 seed for the AFC is on the line, and the Patriots are coming off a tough loss to the Dolphins on Monday night. QB Tom Brady is feeling great heading into this road matchup.
No, just feeling better. So just thought it's a short week, so try to get out there and practice. Like I said, I take it week to week, and I feel really good this week, so I'm very happy about that.
Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have had it rough against the Pats. The team is a terrible 3-10 against the reigning Super Bowl champs. And that's what's in store for this weekend.